Hi everyone, today I want to talk about a bit of a weird topic, but it is something that keeps coming up, especially on my live streams, and I figured it would be time to maybe make a video about this. So what I mean is, well, I have a really large community, I have a really large YouTube channel and a Twitch channel, and there are literally thousands of people there every single day. I have a really large community and I'm really thankful for that. I really appreciate that you guys enjoy my content, that you support me. It just allows me to do what I do, and I really enjoy that I can help others as well with the content I'm putting out. And well, there are a lot of people that also appreciate me so much that they want to give something back. For example, in-game by, giving me handouts or free Duriel runs and all this kind of stuff, which in the grand scheme of things, I guess you can just call streamer privilege. And this is the main topic that I want to talk about here. Streamer privilege. It is something that I don't really enjoy, actually. So if I'm totally honest, I don't like taking handouts. I don't really like taking free stuff. I just want to blast the game, and well, I do blast it a lot, and I do enjoy the grind. And I think just doing the grind is kind of like the most integral part of playing a Diablo game, for example. I do enjoy farming up my own, achievements, my own materials, my own items, and well, I can't really say that I've never taken anything or I've never done like, a free Duriel run or something like that. But let's say 90+% or so of the stuff that I have is achieved through my own gameplay. And not because, I got handouts or something like that. And this is something that is really important to me because I feel I want to have, the most fair, like, environment, as fair as possible at least, to make sure that I also have the best understanding of how the game plays, how the build plays, what is the grind, like what do people actually go through. And I want to be as connected as possible to like, the, let's say, average player. Now, obviously, I'm not an average player. I play a lot more and I, do a lot of crazy stuff. But ultimately, I don't want to take these kind of shortcuts just because I have streamer privilege and then, basically get all my Ubers for free. Basically don't really do anything for most of my gear and just, take like the GG items with the perfect rolls for other people and all that kind of stuff. I actually enjoy the progression of a character. I enjoy the journey that I have playing a character, trying to learn it and understand it, making my own builds. I do every single build from scratch. Almost every single build that I make is a fresh level 1 character that I play to level 100. And okay, occasionally I do like a respec at level 100 and try some other stuff, etc. But in the grand scheme of things, I do everything on my own. I do my planners on my own. And I just enjoy doing that because, at least for me, this is exactly the stuff that works best in Diablo 4 as a player, as someone who enjoys making these different characters and enjoys going through the game in different ways. And taking these kind of shortcuts, I feel I would just take a lot away from my own experience. In addition of just like kind of alienating myself from the rest of the player base as well, that doesn't have these luxuries that I could enjoy. And yes, you see me here standing with a bunch of Ubernicks in my inventory. There's actually more that I have on a mule. I found like, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something this season already. And with a roughly 1 in 50 drop from Duriel, well, yeah, I have done a lot of Duriels this season. And yes, I have farmed, over 100 Duriel summons already this season on my own, and then I've done rotations, multiplying those numbers by ×4, so I've killed like, I don't know, 400, 500 Duriels by now. You see here I have 1500 Forgotten Souls, and yeah, this is just how it is. So this is the grind that you have to go through, and I'm going through it, and I'm really gladly doing it. Now, that doesn't really mean that I really enjoy the Duriel grind. I think it's a horrible grind, and it has to change, and it has to change soon. At the very least, we need, maybe more different bosses or maybe some other sources of Uber items. I guess there is a patch coming now, so maybe that will help a bit. But ultimately, I think the whole grind needs to improve, just needs to be more fun, etc. But this is also some kind of feedback that I would never be able to give if I wasn't doing this in the first place. If I just got all of my Duriels handed to me, for example, and I never actually go and farm Helltides and farm Whispers, then I would also not be able to really give that kind of feedback, for example, to Blizzard. And, I do give feedback to Blizzard very frequently about a lot of things. And this is definitely one of those topics where I can talk a lot about. So for me, it's just really important to kind of like keep a good perspective of what a player is actually going through, even those that, you know, play far, far less than me and far less efficiently than me, because, you know, I kind of understand at least, you know, what is the expected grind, how many hours do we actually have to put in, what is kind of like a realistic target, you know, what, and then, you know, obviously I have a bit of an opinion of what it should be as well. You know, what is something that players actually would like to go through. So this is just something that I felt was kind of necessary to talk about here. And likewise, it also comes down to just making new builds. I think it's very important that, and you know, I just don't get boosted very much when I play a new character or when I play a new build. I make new characters all the time. I don't know, probably done like 3 or 4 dozen level 100s or something at this point, or, you know, at least started some builds. And, well, what should I say? I don't want to get boosted either. Like, there's a lot of people, every time I start a fresh character, people ask me, hey, do you want to get the boost to World Tier 4? You know, it can be there in like half an hour or something. And I just always say no, because it's kind of the same story here. Like, I want to go through the early game progression. I think this is kind of like an important part of building a character, making a new build, and actually understanding a new build as well. And you can see this also, for example, when I make my build guides, or when I make my planners. So here's my double swing planner, for example. I have many planners here that I just put together, and as I mentioned earlier, they're basically always made from scratch. They're always, you know, just based on my own findings, on my own theory crafting, and this is something I just really enjoy. And well, when you start out with a fresh character with a fresh build, it is important to not just look at, you know, the absolute GG, you know, high-end variant. Obviously, this is the thing that you theory craft the most. This is like the target to work towards. But in the grand scheme of things, you also have to get there somehow. And I feel this is something that is just really missing. Most of the time when I look at, I don't know, some content of other people, for example, which frankly I don't do very much, but I do have these examples of, you know, people linking me builds and linking me guides, and, you know, then you see like, you know, these crazy setups with everything uber uniques and, you know, like super high-end stuff, everything perfectly rolled. And then people come to me and ask me questions like, why is my build not working? Well, the obvious answer is that you're just following a setup that you don't have already, and no one is teaching you how to get there. And this is something that I find very valuable when I make my own build guides. I always talk about the early game stuff. I always put like, you know, a leveling setup in there with codex powers, and then, you know, the progression without uniques, and then, you know, something like that. And obviously this doesn't exactly apply the same way to every single build. Some builds don't even exist as a leveling version. Let's say, for example, Starfall Coronet, Meteor Sorg or something, or like Boulder Druid. You know, these are builds that are exclusively level 100, exclusively endgame. But for the most part, that is not true for other builds. And so I just really like going through the early game as well with some other characters and some other builds, and actually doing it all by myself as well. So why did I explain all of this? It's also because, well, there's some people that say stuff like, yeah, but if we boost you, you could play more builds and then make more guides, and then, you know, we have kind of like a bigger value for the community. But ultimately, I don't believe that to be true because of what I just explained. So, you know, I appreciate that people like my guides and they want to see more builds of mine. But the truth is, it just takes time to make a build, to make a character. And yeah, I can obviously make builds that are like really close to the truth, that are really close to like being like an optimal setup and all that stuff. But maybe I'm just too much of a perfectionist or something. I don't really like just, you know, going in and doing it without knowing the details, without having played it. Because there are always things that you figure out when playing it. There are always these little details that you have to like min-max a little bit. Even being the best video crafter in the world, you know, you couldn't really like figure out an exact perfect setup from scratch every single time. You always have to go and, you know, play it a little bit. And this is why I like doing exactly this. Ultimately, my goal, of course, is to also just make the best content possible for you guys, to, you know, have the best build guides possible, the best setups, the best planners, and so on. And, well, I do appreciate also that you guys try to help me. As I mentioned, you know, there are obviously also some advantages to taking, you know, free handouts, to shortcutting the grind, etc. But ultimately, yeah, I just don't really feel that at ease with doing it for various reasons that I just tried to explain. So I hope you appreciate that. I hope that you know, this maybe gives a bit of a better understanding of how I work, how I approach things, and maybe for the future as well. It's just something that everyone should keep in mind, I guess. In the end, I just see myself a little bit more as, you know, just a blaster, someone who wants to, you know, play the game, have fun, and, well, make these guides as much as I can. But I'm not really, like, ultimately, like, this, you know, build guide factory or something like that, even though I do pump out a lot of these. But I think that, you know, taking these shortcuts is just kind of like a slippery slope when it comes to making, like, really, like, good in-depth build guides that work for everyone, because going through the entire progression with a character, going through the entire grind for the Ubers, for example, and, you know, whatever else you might get in the future. You know, this season we got Malphas runs, next season we're gonna get something else, and, you know, eventually they're gonna build up more and more of these kind of grinds, I guess. I just think it's like part of the game. It's just very important to not lose the track and, you know, the sense of progression and, you know, the sense of the grind, basically. So that's kind of like the main point I wanted to make here. So just want to get it out here. I felt that, you know, maybe this could clear things up for people that, you know, keep asking me about these kind of topics. I think this is something that would describe how I roll, how I approach things the best way possible. So hope you appreciate this. Hope you like this video, and see you guys next time.